Welcome to the Science of Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Mukanga, and each week we'll explore how gratitude transforms our lives through powerful stories and insights. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in once more to the Science of Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Mukanga, and I have a wonderful guest today. We call her Rincy. I'm going to have her introduce herself, but she's really, really sweet. I just love her. Yes, she is. And I'm sure that you love her too, and she's going to talk to us about her story. But before we do that, would you please give us the honor of introducing yourself?
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Omorinsola Ajayi, but to my close friends, I go by Rincy. And actually, well, my family still calls me Omorinsola, but my friends in the United States, they call me Rincy because it's just easier to pronounce. Um, yeah. A little about me. First of all, I'm a child of God. I am a daughter of God saved by his grace, and that is where my identity lies. And with that said, I am a 24-year-old woman living in Dallas, Texas, and I am currently an event coordinator at a local museum in Dallas. And so that's what I do by the day. Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, yeah. So you talked about the museum. Can you tell us a little bit about this museum? Because I thought it was really interesting.
Absolutely. So I work for it's called the ICR Discovery Center. And the ICR stands for the Institute for Creation Research. And basically our whole goal is to show how science confirms creation. How
Wow.
science confirms the Bible, that we want to show people that they can trust what the scripture says literally, that you do not have to compromise for what secular science says. Yeah.
I love it. And I did tell you that we'll go visit.
I'm still expecting you. And I have your tickets ready. So
Yay. So, Rincy, thank you so much. And thank you for saying yes to our invitation. I wanted to ask you, how do you define gratitude in your own terms?
mm, I had to really think about this question because, people say things like gratitude is being thankful or having a positive attitude towards life. I had to really dig down deep to see what gratitude means to me. And
Yes.
I rested on gratitude is understanding how helpless you are on your own
Mm,
and how much you need God.
mm,
So, to explain a little bit further, human beings, we rely completely 100% on God. And whether you acknowledge him or not, he is
yeah.
what is sustaining you.
Hmm.
And so he's sustaining each and every single individual, every form of life on earth. We all
Yes.
rely on him. And understanding that we do not have any ability to even help ourselves. We can't, the most basic function in life,
Hmm.
like breathing, for example, no
Yeah.
one can like close their nose and stop themselves from breathing, for example, because
Mm,
your survival instincts are going to kick in. Your hand's gonna fly over, and because so you can't even control the most basic instinct in life. It's
yeah.
God that controls you. If He says today's your day, one snap of a finger, you're gone.
Yeah.
So understanding that, and then understanding our need for God, and appreciating that He's still keeping us here, and
Yes.
appreciating that although we are completely helpless, He is all powerful and He sustains us and He chooses to sustain us. It's a really great privilege to be sustained by the God of heaven. And so that's what gratitude means to me, understanding how helpless you are and appreciating how God is holding you up.
I love it. I really love the example that you gave. You said even if you try to hold your breath,
Hmm.
yes, all your organs are gonna just kick in, and
Yeah.
your head is gonna fly out because he's the one that controls that.
Hmm.
And I also love the fact that you say that we have to rely on God. We all rely on God, whether we want to acknowledge Him or not. And He's the one that is the sustainer of life. I really love what you said. Yes, that's definitely something to truly, really ponder about. Mother on. So, huh, I'm still thinking because that was really deep. That was really deep.
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead and dive into your gratitude story. Would you please share with us, your beautiful testimony?
I just love hearing people's testimonies. It inspires me so much. So I always love the fact that you ask people this because I believe using your testimony is one of the greatest ways to share of God's goodness, of what He's
Yeah.
done in your life. And so my testimony, I didn't let me think about where to start. So I grew up in a Christian household my entire life. I grew up in Nigeria, and Nigeria is a very religious country. It's like 50 between Christianity and Islam. And so I grew up
Wow.
Christian and grew up in church, went to church pretty much every Sunday. And so we would, pray and do praise and worship in the car on the way to school. I went to a Christian school, so Christ
Wow.
everything. Um,
Yeah.
One thing that marked my childhood was the belief. I understood, who God was, who Jesus was, who the Holy Spirit was. And I understood like salvation meant you got to trust in Jesus and accept Him as your Lord and Savior.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I didn't understand is salvation by grace. So I grew up
Mm,
believing that you had to, yes, accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, but then you also
mhm,
had to work hard to make your way to heaven. And
mhm.
so I didn't understand that it was out of Jesus, what the work that Jesus has done and our love for Him and the Holy Spirit working in us that the good works come. So I
Okay.
spent a lot of my childhood striving and trying to be the perfect Christian girl. Some days
Yeah.
I'll be very good. Some days
Yeah.
things happen and I'm not the best person.
Uh-huh.
And so I spent a lot of my childhood in that on that roller coaster up and down, thinking
Mhm.
that God loved me when I was good and He hated me when I was bad and He wanted nothing to
Right.
do with me whenever I wasn't being a good girl. So when I came to the United States, I was like, whew, this life is hard. I was going to college. I'm like, going to college now. I want to be a Christian, but I also want to live my life. I want to do whatever I want to do. But thankfully, God put that plan to a halt as soon as I
Yeah.
came here because
Wow.
my older brother
Mhm.
took me the night after I arrived in the United States. My older
Mhm.
brother took me to a young adults ministry at my former church. It's called The Porch. And
Yeah.
so I started going to the young adults ministry there. And that is
Mhm.
when I heard the gospel. That's when the gospel really hit me for the first time in
Mm.
my entire life. I
Wow.
think even the first day that I went there, they were like, you do not have to wear a mask while you're here. Come as you are, with all your pain, with all your struggles, come as you
Yeah.
are. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, what do you mean? I thought church is where people go to be perfect and like you're supposed to be perfect and everything.
Mhm.
And so I don't know if you can relate to this, but just the belief that you have to come to church and you got to be perfect. So coming there and like, no, come as you are. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to put on a mask. I was like, whoa, this is
Wow.
amazing.
Yes.
And then over time I was going to the church and they were talking about the gospel and telling people
Mhm.
that it is not by what you can do, but
Mm.
it's by what Jesus Christ has already done.
Right.
And
Completely
so
shattering your belief system.
I was like, well, it took me a while. It wasn't just like a one time thing. It took me
I
a
see.
while to
Uh-huh.
unravel old beliefs.
Yes.
And so, and I'm sure you can relate to like unravel. I said, when you get into your adult years, a lot of the things you thought you knew, you actually
Right.
didn't know. And so, that was the beginning of my my true connection with God and
Uh-huh.
understand that's the beauty of the gospel. Like it really sets you free.
Yes.
And so that's just part one of the story. Now, this Christian walk, it's not all rainbows and sunshine. That's not
Mhm.
true.
Mhm.
Whatever people have said, if anyone's ever told you that Christian walk is easy, it is not easy, but it is
Wow.
more than worth it. And I'm sure you can
Mhm.
attest to that.
Oh, yes.
And so, that same year that I decided to really go all in with my
Mhm.
relationship with God, that was in
Mhm.
2018.
Mm.
Whoa, I experienced a lot of spiritual attack. And
Okay.
that was in the form of doubt.
Oh, wow.
So, um, it was not just doubting like, oh, will God do this thing for me? Or it was kind of was doubting like my whole faith. Like, is
Mhm.
God real?
Mm. Mhm.
Whoa, that was a big thing. I had never in my entire life, I don't think I had ever even asked that question, like, is God real? But that summer that I came to the US, I was hit hard by that question. Every day I would wake up, I'm like, is this thing even
Mhm.
real? And that is one of the tactics of the enemy, just when I was getting closer to God, that's when he dropped that bomb.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
so yeah, I was doubting my faith, asking if God was real, if this whole Christianity thing is true. And it may sound like it's just a question, it's just that, but it was deep. I was in tears almost every day. I was
Mm.
distraught. And another thing is I was ashamed. I was ashamed, like, oh, I'm supposed to be a Christian girl, a good Christian girl, and I'm doubting that God even exists.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I didn't want to tell anyone. For like 7 months, I didn't tell anyone. I would tell people that yeah, I'm really struggling with something, but I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to.
Yeah, what it is.
Yeah, I don't want to tell anyone. You can pray for me, but I'm not gonna tell you until one day. My old one of my old campus ministry leaders, she broke me down, and then I told her, and bro, man, that was so freeing for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me. I'm curious. How did she break you down?
So it wasn't like, oh, you gotta tell me right now. It was kind of
Right.
like it was months and months of her being persistent, like creating a
Mm.
safe space of, hey, you can tell me anything. You're not in this alone. Whenever you're ready to tell me. So I
Mhm.
even remember the night that I told her. It was back in 2019. I was in her car. She was dropping me at home. I
Mm.
was in her car, and it was late at night, and I was just talking about this secret sin that I was struggling with, and I told her like, "Hey, this is it. I'm struggling with doubt."
Mhm.
And the way she responded was so gracious and so kind. She let me know that she was there for me, and that that it was not a struggle that I needed to be ashamed of or that I needed to keep to myself,
Wow.
and that that Christians go through all kinds of struggles, no matter how big or small it may seem. So
Yes.
and that I didn't need to hide that. So that
Okay.
was a good way she responded, and I
Mhm.
really appreciate it. And that's the thing, I think I said it before, that the enemy will try to make you feel like you're alone.
Yes, he will.
He will make you feel like you're the only one in the entire world
Mhm.
who feels the way you're feeling and who
Mhm.
is struggling with the thing you're struggling with. But that is
Mhm.
absolutely not true.
Right.
There is no struggle that only one person in the world is struggling with.
Right. This
I
is true.
I think there's one verse that kind of relates. It's not exactly it, but 1 Corinthians 10:13, it says the
Mm.
temptations in your life are
Mm.
no different from what others experience. You know.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, are you familiar with that verse?
I am. I am.
Yeah. Can you relate to what I'm saying about
I
like
can relate. I can relate
struggles?
because
Yeah.
sometimes you're going through something and you think you are the only one,
Mm-hmm.
right? You
Yes.
think that you're the only one going through that, and you're not. And that's the reason why, a podcast such as this one puts puts to light,
Hmm.
what common people are going through. And in one testimony or another, you can find yourself. You can say,
Yes.
oh, and while you share, it gives hope. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that when you isolating yourself or when you find yourself isolated by
Yeah.
life, you just think that woe is me,
Hmm.
why am I the only one going through this? And you're not even the only one. You're
Yeah.
not.
You're not. You're absolutely not. So, whoever's listening to this, feeling like their struggle, that you're the only one, let me tell you, sir or ma'am, you are
Mhm.
not the only one. That is just a tactic of the enemy.
Right.
Because even like one of the ways that I was able to combat that struggle with doubt was I went online and I looked,
Mhm.
okay, what to do when you're in doubt, like how do I deal with it? Because the lady that helped me, that made me feel like I was alone, that was her part. Now, she was not like a pastor or anything, so there's only so much
Mhm.
she could do. So I went online to see, okay, what do I do whenever I'm struggling in doubt? And then I saw different people who had struggled with it as well
Right.
and how they were able to overcome.
Overcome.
And
Mhm.
so that really helped me a lot to know I was not alone and I could find people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this, Rinty. So, how did I don't know if you can remember what triggered, this doubt or the
Mhm.
doubting season that you faced.
That's why I said it must have been spiritual attack. Like,
Hmm.
I know that's such a very Christianese thing to say. It sounds very heavy. Us Africans, we're not unfamiliar with it. We're very familiar with spiritual warfare, you know.
That part, that part.
But maybe to Americans it may seem like, oh, what is that? But it's just whenever the enemy is messing with you, and so because it came out of nowhere, I had no reason to doubt. I was in a great place with God. I was just growing my faith. So why would I all of a sudden start questioning God's existence whenever He was so good to me?
Right, right,
So
right.
it had to have been the enemy. And I'm not saying that I'm completely free from doubt. Every now and then I go through I call them my bouts with doubt. And every now and then, like the enemy tries to, like make me doubt God. Like in the Garden of Eden, that's
Yes,
what he did. To Adam and Eve, he
yes.
made them diminish their trust in God. So,
Mhm,
but by the grace of God, I've been able to find different ways to combat that.
mhm.
Yeah, and I can talk about that.
I would love for you. That was actually going to be my next question
Okay.
because okay, so we don't completely understand, how it happened, and we understand that it was an attack,
Hmm.
but even though like knowing or understanding how it comes is one thing, but
Yeah.
knowing how to come out of it is definitely what we need to actually stress more. So yes, I would
Mhm.
like to know what are some of the things, some of the ways that you actually ended up coming out of this doubt, and even when it comes back once
Right.
in a while,
Hmm.
what do you do?
Yes, and so okay. First of all, during at that time, what helped me come out of it the first time around was
Mhm.
going online and reading that article that made me realize that I was not alone. One thing from
Yes.
that article that really stood out to me was whenever they said that doubt is not unbelief. So, because a lot of
Okay.
people, whenever they fall into doubt, they start to think, oh my gosh, I'm no longer a Christian. I don't believe. I've lost my salvation. No, 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 no. That's not true. So it's what you do with the doubts that matters because we all have doubts on some level. Because
Mhm.
sometimes you may not doubt the existence of God, but you might doubt, oh, does God really love me?
Mm.
Or is God really happy with me? Or
Yes.
can God really do this for me?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And so, but doubt is not unbelief.
Okay.
Doubt is just asking questions and being curious about things. So whenever you have questions, it's good to ask
Mhm.
them. Don't be afraid of them. Christianity
Mhm.
is strong enough. God is strong enough. He's big enough for your questions.
Yes, he
And so
is.
it's not like that's also one of my fears at the beginning that like, oh my gosh, what if I ask these questions and the
Mm.
whole religion just falls because they can't answer it?
Yes.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
well, that's some of the things that we go through, we,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
In fact, we are at some point of life. I think I also went through that where I was actually told that it's not good to ask questions.
Oh.
Yes, you cannot question God.
Ooh.
And I don't find that to be true,
Mm-mm.
because I find that He actually likes, to answer these questions.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Hmm.
it's okay to ask questions.
It's absolutely okay. You should ask questions. And I mean, there's different ways to ask questions. So some people ask questions so they can try and justify things that they want to do that they should not be doing.
Yes.
That's one thing. But whenever you genuinely want to know more about God so you can draw closer to Him, now that's
Mhm.
good.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
the ways that I dealt with it, first, now what I do now is I pray. I get
Mhm.
on my knees and I
Mhm.
pray. Because
Mhm.
if this is an issue that is happening in the spiritual realm, we have to pray, and we have
Right.
to ask the all powerful God to come and help us out of the struggle.
Mhm.
And so I always try to pray first, and also I tell my community, because sin thrives in isolation.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, any sin that you're hiding is only going to get worse if you don't. But whenever you bring the sin into the light, the darkness loses its power.
Mhm.
And so you gotta confess it to your community, like, "Hey, here's how I'm struggling. How can you help me, or please pray for me?" And there's
Yeah.
power in multiple people praying. It's a beautiful thing, yeah.
Mhm.
And
And
so
obviously, you have to select who you're talking to too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You gotta have people who are very firm, like who are firm in their faith and who are also walking the same path as you. You
Mhm.
know, trying to
Mhm.
pursue God as well. You know,
Yes. Yes.
and so that's another thing that I do. Then I okay, this is really cool. I I don't know if have you ever heard of apologetics?
Yes, I have.
So, you apologize to just simply defending the faith, and
Mhm.
so it's so cool to see how strong our faith is and how the foundation that our faith is built on
Yes.
reason and history and truth, and it's our faith is so strong, and so apologetics is just learning how to defend the faith, and
The
it's
faith.
a really
Yes.
cool thing. So because I have struggled with doubt so much, I have learned different ways to defend the faith, and I've learned how all of nature and all of reality kind of supports Christianity. And
Mhm.
so one of the things that I can start with is the person of Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
Now, all religions acknowledge that there was a man named Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And so, first of all, that's a big deal. If all
And
religions acknowledge him, then he must have been real.
yes.
Even atheists know that there was a man. Atheist historians know that there was a man named Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ. Yes.
and people say that, oh, he was a great teacher, or he was or like a something. Yeah, they try to minimize him to just like, oh, he was a great teacher, or was a very charismatic leader, but that's not
Yeah.
all he was. He was
Mhm.
Lord, you know.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so there's one argument called liar, lunatic, or Lord. So it starts with saying that it's either Jesus Christ was a liar, he
Mhm.
was a lunatic, or he was actually Lord.
Mhm.
So if Jesus Christ was a liar, how can a man who preached such good morals and all these good things to be and to do, how could
Mhm.
he have been a liar?
Mhm.
Doesn't make any
Mhm.
sense. And how can you
Mhm.
respect people say that they respect Jesus, they just don't believe he was Lord. How can you respect
Mhm.
somebody who was a liar? That's not possible.
Liar.
Or he
Right.
was a lunatic, like he
Uh-huh.
was crazy. But
Yes.
again, how is a crazy person healing the sick and being kind to people and having such profound teachings, and
Mhm.
refuting arguments like a world-class lawyer? How can a crazy person do all of that? And
Right.
how would a crazy person have so many followers and people around him? It doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
And yeah.
And so then if we can't accept the fact that he was a liar or a
Mhm.
lunatic, then there's only one
Mhm.
option.
And I was Lord.
He was Lord.
Yes.
So that's really cool to know, that Jesus Christ, that he was Lord, and that he did die, because people acknowledge that he died. Then people have different arguments. Oh, that the body was stolen, or this or that. I'm like, okay, where's your evidence?
Right. Yeah.
Where's your evidence? People even say that he never died, but you know he crucifixion was those people were professional killers. Crucifixion was not something you can just not the way they did it. He died, and he was in the tomb for he rose on the third day. And
Mhm.
so he was dead.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so no, it's not a laughing matter, I'm sorry. But he was dead, and he rose, and people saw him. After he
Mhm.
rose, he appeared
Mhm.
to hundreds of
Mhm.
people. And
Mhm.
so yeah, there's the eyewitness accounts of that as well. And there's also the fact that whenever he rose, because during his death, like those days that he was not alive,
Mhm.
the disciples were like, "Oh my gosh, our God died, our Lord died. What are we
Yes.
gonna do when we can't continue?" So they were just. Peter went back to go fishing, and
Mhm.
others, and so they had kind of lost hope. But then he rose, and then that created the biggest movement that this world has ever seen:
Yes.
Christianity.
Yes.
And so, how would you explain such a transformation in people's life
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
Jesus Christ did not rise from the dead?
Mhm. Mhm.
How could you explain
Yes.
hundreds turn to thousands, turn to millions of people
Mhm.
change, like lives changed,
Over
for
centuries.
the resurrection?
Right.
So isn't that's just one of the arguments, one of the points you could use to debate people. The goal is not
Yes.
just to debate; it's to kind of provide evidence. But
Yes.
and
Yes.
so another thing is, for example, morality.
Morality.
So morality, like good, or what it takes good, what it takes
What's
bad,
good
it
or bad?
takes bad. And
Right.
so this world, people in this world say that there's no God. If there's
Mhm.
no God, what is the basis of morality?
Right.
What is the
Right.
basis of me being a good person, or
Mhm.
trying to be civil with
Mhm.
my neighbor?
Mhm.
If we
Mhm.
were just all consequences of,
Mhm.
the evolutionary process,
Mhm.
why don't we live like the animal kingdom?
Mhm.
They don't care about their neighbor. They're just trying to
Right.
eat, They're trying to get their next meal, provide for themselves. But
Yes.
human beings, we don't operate that way.
Right.
We care about each other.
Mhm.
And so if if there was no God, and if we didn't have like the spirits and souls and
Mhm.
conscience,
Mhm.
where does morality come
Come
from?
from.
Why aren't we just in a dog eat dog world? It's
Mhm.
because God set the standard from the beginning. He set the standard of good and bad, right and wrong from
Mhm.
the beginning.
Mhm.
That's why we have morality. And
Yes.
so that's another way, because if there's no God, then there's no reason to be a good person. There's no purpose to life. Everyone just do what they want, just do what you want.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that's another reason. But I don't want to dwell too much on the reasons, because I can go down a whole rabbit hole.
Can you please give me three more reasons?
Three more? Oh, I got you. I got you. Another
Or
thing,
three more ways that you actually overcame doubt? Because, I think that the more the merrier here, because as you say, this was something that you were very embarrassed about.
hmm
And this is something that more people than we know go through.
yeah,
And they may not, unlike you, face up to it. So
mhm,
maybe secretly they can find ways to also overcome it as
yeah,
you speak. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll give you three more reasons, and they're gonna be good.
Okay, tell me.
So another one is in creation, which is relates to where I work. So it's creation, the story of how did we get here in this world that we live in.
Mhm.
Behind every single like piece of life, every unit of life, there is such incredible design. You
True.
cannot deny that fact, that there is
Mhm.
design in nature. You look at a DNA, like a single like strand of DNA, and there's so much information in it. There's more information in, like, I think they said, oh, I don't want to get the facts wrong, but I think along the lines of, in one strand of DNA there's more information in it than an encyclopedia or something
Mm.
like that. And
Wow.
so there's so much design in nature, and we have to attribute that to a creator.
Yes.
we can't, if people believe in the Big Bang, that the Big Bang happened and then that started kickstarted the evolutionary process, and then we
Mhm.
all, and then that created this beautiful world that we see here today.
Mhm.
Really?
How did the bang happen though?
Exactly. And that's another thing. Who banged the bang? It had to have started somewhere. And so the idea that we came out of the Big Bang and that it was a non-living thing that created a living thing,
Mhm.
it goes against what we know about science in the first place. Because
Mhm.
never throughout scientific history do we ever see life coming from non-life,
Mhm.
or somethingness coming from nothingness. It doesn't happen, you know? And so it doesn't make any sense. And so, for example, I think a common example people use is if an explosion happens,
Mhm.
let's wait one day, and
Mhm.
explosion happens and there's rubble everywhere, just scattered everywhere. Wait one
Yeah.
day. What's going to be there the next day? Is it going to be a beautiful car? Is it going to be a well structured house? No, the next day it's not going to be. How
Right.
about the next month? Is it going to be a
Mhm.
house then, or a beautiful car?
Mhm.
Is it, what about, let's wait a year or 10
Mhm.
years or,
Mhm.
20 years, however many years? It's
Mhm.
not going to be anything that looks beautiful or engineered. The car
Right.
that you're driving, the watch on your wrist,
Mhm.
they were all designed.
Mhm.
And you can't tell me that this watch has more like functioning capacity and more like greater abilities than my human body.
My
So
goodness.
if this required a designer,
Mhm.
how could your body not have required a designer too? You know?
Yeah.
And so that's just, it's crazy how people can just look at these facts and completely deny it. It's very sad as well. Okay, two more, right?
Sure.
You are. Okay, this one, this what I'm gonna say, right, it's gonna be short, but it really had a great impact on me whenever I was
Mhm.
struggling one time. Is I read it in a book by Tim Keller, who was one of the greatest apologists and theologians. He passed away a couple years ago,
Okay.
of our time. And so he just simply said this line: we can never crave something that doesn't exist. So you can't even think about, okay, you can't even think about craving something that doesn't exist, but yet inside every one of us there
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
something longing for a higher power,
Yeah. Yes.
it's just, but our bodies just know it. That's why most of the world, I think they said about 80% of the world believes in a higher power. I think it's more, but they said that
Mhm.
80% of the world believes in a
Mhm.
higher power, believes in God.
Mhm.
And how does that happen? Even the most remote parts of the world, you go there and they believe in a God, they
Mhm.
believe in a higher power.
Mhm.
And so it's because there's something deep in us that wants it, because that's what God put it there. God put it
Yes.
there. And now we have this craving, this longing. So there's, in your whole existence, you can't crave something that doesn't exist. Like, I'll give you time right now. Think about, you can't even think about it because you can't even imagine what craving something that doesn't exist could look
Yeah.
like.
No, you're right. You're right. I never
So
thought about that.
yeah, you can. So God has to exist.
Yes.
And now this final point is one of the most impactful, actually, is just your testimony.
Mm.
Everyone's testimony. Everyone has a before Christ.
Mm.
Well, Christians have a before Christ. Whether
Yes.
you gave your life to Christ at 5 years old or
Mhm.
60 years old, you all have a before Christ. And the before Christ is that we were all dead to our sin. We were all sinful people. We were born into sin from the moment we got into this world,
Mm.
and we do bad things every day. But by the saving power of God, we can have salvation.
Mm.
And so, life change. You can see my story, how I was before. how I was before I had a proper understanding of the gospel, and how God is
Yes.
working on me now to seek Him more and to pursue Him. And
Yes.
so even people like Paul, for example, Paul in the Bible, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure Christians and even some non-Christians are very familiar with Paul. Paul was
Yes.
a murderer, he used to run around killing Christians.
Exactly. This is true.
He used to run around, killing Christians, and he was not a great person. But then he had
In
an
that regard, he
encounter.
was not.
What did you say?
He really was not in that regard.
You would not have wanted to be his friend. Um,
Wow.
he he he. But something changed in him because he had an encounter
Yes.
with Jesus Christ.
Yes.
He had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and that changed him radically.
Yes. It
Radically.
did.
He
It did.
became one of the biggest, spreaders of the gospel that this world has
Mm-hmm.
ever seen. He dedicated his entire life after that to spreading the gospel and encouraging people.
Mm-hmm.
We hear stories all the time. I'm sure most people know at least one person whose life was radically different from how they are after Christ came
Yes.
into their life. For example, a pastor that really inspired me, his name is Jonathan Pokluda. He goes by JP. I
Mm-hmm.
recommend you all go listen to him. And he just has a wonderful testimony of life life before Christ, and
Mm-hmm.
how God has changed him now. He was in the world. He did everything you could possibly imagine. He did it, and so he was, living that rock star life. And one day he went to a church, half drunk, and he had an encounter with God there. And now he's a pastor of thousands, and probably he's very well known, I would say, anyway. But like, he has a big followership, and his testimony has impacted so many lives, and he's a great preacher. But not even him. Let me talk about myself. Before I understood like what the gospel really was. I was selfish. I was self-centered. I thought the world revolved around me. I thought everyone hated me. I had so many struggles. I didn't understand what God's love was.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all these issues. And I'm not perfect right now, but let me tell you, I the work that God has done in me. I don't think you might not have wanted to be friends with me before, but I think you might find me okay to hang out with now.
Oh, I find it okay to hang out with. It's always a
Thank
delight to have you around.
you. Thank you. But yeah, God has really done an amazing work in my life, and none of it is by my strength or by my power or by my because I'm just a good person. No, 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 no. You do not want to know all the things that go on in my head. I'm still, sanctification is a lifelong process.
Yes.
So it's by just the life change that has happened in my life that I've seen in other people's lives. You cannot deny that God did that. How does somebody wake up one morning and become a completely different person? It's because God. And this is another reason why you should share your testimony, because people can argue the facts with you all day. Like, no, Jesus rose from the dead. He didn't rise from the dead. But nobody can argue with you about your testimony. Nobody can say, no, your life didn't change. What do you mean? About my story? No way. Nobody can argue with you about your testimony. They might look like, oh, she's just crazy, but they can't argue with you. So
Right. I can't even picture you being selfish, in fact.
like,
I just
let me say, I wasn't like a what the world would call a bad person.
mhm,
I was just very emotional and very self-centered.
entered.
So
Yeah.
you might not have, hated me. We might even have been friends, but I just had a lot of issues that would have that did pour out on people, and
Oh,
hurt people. So,
I see.
and I didn't care because I thought they were at fault and I was always right. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's
But
not
of fact, life had to go your way.
exactly. So
Wow. So,
mhm,
man, this was really good. There's a question I have for you. You said something about the fact that doubt is not unbelief.
mhm.
How do you separate the two? Like, what's the difference between the two?
I would say unbelief is saying, "Oh, I don't believe in God anymore."
Hmm.
That I'm done with him, and letting your life reflect that. Like people often, have these questions and they construct their faith, but then they don't build a faith back up. They just leave it crumbled on the ground, and then they walk away. And people have these questions. They ask, "Oh, is God really real?" They don't seek the answers. They just say, "You know what? God is not real. I'm gonna live my life the way I want to live my life." And they don't seek Him. They just do their thing, and they stop believing that there's a God, and they stop believing that there's, a higher power. But doubt is, I believe that doubt is asking questions. That
Yeah.
I believe the proper way to doubt is by asking questions. That's the proper way to handle doubt. Don't just say, "Oh well," you know, and just walk away. You ask those questions.
Thank you so much for saying that. But so when you're talking about doubt, it reminds me of the disciple of Jesus Christ named Thomas.
Hmm.
Because when Jesus appears and like he doesn't believe, he wasn't there when Jesus appeared first.
Right.
And he's like, unless I put my finger, wherever he was actually in where the nails were, I would not believe. And so then Jesus appears again, and then it's like, oh, you should have believed without seeing.
Hmm.
But what the reason why I bring this up is because even Thomas ended up being one of the disciples that led, like, one of the greatest movement, and in fact he actually died as a martyr.
Hmm.
So that's to say that just because in this one season you doubted does not mean that you cannot end up, doing great work for the Lord, which is
Right.
also your testimony. In fact,
Hmm.
you came out of doubt, and even during the seasons when you start doubting again, you just do the same kind of process in order to get you out of it.
Right. Hmm.
And while we talked about unbelief, which is not believing, there isn't even hope for that. And the verse that rang into my ear is the one where there's a father who comes and brings his son to Jesus, and Jesus asked him, what he wanted to do, and he said, "Lord, I believe, help
Hmm.
my unbelief," which
Yes.
seems contrary, but
Hmm.
it's like, while you think that you believe, if you are in unbelief, you can always go and ask God to help your unbelief, and that's
Absolutely.
how you can come out of it. So
Yes.
whether you're a doubting Christian or even if you have fallen to unbelief,
Hmm.
there's a way out.
Hmm.
And by asking, the right question and asking for the right help, and then you'll be
Absolutely.
able to come out of it.
Yes, that line is so good. My mom told me to always, pray that, like, because we don't human beings, we don't have enough faith, on a regular basis. Not even just like doubting, we don't have enough faith generally. So we always have to. It's good to pray like, God, I believe you can do this, but help the part of me that doesn't believe, that doesn't fully trust you.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
that's a good one. Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yes. So, man, this was wonderful. I commend you and I thank you for coming with this particular testimony, because most people don't want to like, put their face out there and say, I was the one who doubted. Here, look at me. And but I believe that, this is so impactful because it's gonna help so many people who are hiding and are still ashamed
Hmm.
about the fact that they're not believing or that they're doubting, just the same way you it helped you out. So thank you so much for coming. This is definitely like a different type of testimony, and I truly appreciate and commend you for doing that for us, for
Thank
our
you. I give God the glory because I was a kind of person also that would want to hide all my sins, whether it was doubt or something else. I just wanted to hide everything. But God has done a work in me because He's inspired me through different people, like that pastor that I mentioned, and like
yes,
different people in my life as well who are just open about their struggles, and like hearing their struggles made me feel like I was not alone and that I could share
right,
mine. So it's really the work of God, moving in me, moving in all of us to be open.
yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
So yeah,
organizing this.
I was gonna ask you, this was beautiful. Unfortunately, we have to stop at some point, right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, is there anything that you are currently working on that you would like our audience to be aware of?
So I do have a website. It's called loveofabba.com.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this website is very much a work in progress. Basically, it's I just release articles and poems and different writings about people's stories, about my experiences, about different things, just to encourage people and to encourage believers through writing. And so it's very much a work in progress. That's loveofabba.com,
Okay.
LOVEABBA.com. And so
.com.
y'all can check it out, and you can also, you can type in the contact box, and I can get back to you.
Wonderful. I'm actually going to go there and see what that's all about because,
Yeah.
and for those who don't know what Abba means, it means father.
Hmm.
So it's love of the father.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So thank you so much. And so, yeah, that brings us to the close of our episode today. Oh, I learned so much. I learned so much about, especially about ways to come out of doubt, such as thinking about creations, thinking about your testimony,
Hmm.
thinking about, answering great question and how, thinking about would Jesus have been a liar or a lunatic or
Hmm.
Lord?
Exactly.
Those three L's. I mean, you gave us so many good gems, and I am actually this is one that I'm going to go and go on these spots. How do you come out of that and keep watching and rewatching and rewatching? But one of the things that we learn here is that you are not the only one. I'm not the only one going through what I'm going through, facing the things that I'm facing. And so finding yourself or looking for a great community that can support you is
Hmm.
very, very good.
Very
And if
important.
you are that person who is doubting, listen, you're not the only one either. So don't like lose hope. Don't go hide somewhere. Just come out with it and then find ways to come out of it. And even if you fell in unbelief, there's always help for you as well.
Hmm.
All you have
Yeah.
to do is ask the Lord to help you come out of it.
Right. Exactly. You
So,
you nailed it.
so again, thank you so much, Rincy, for saying yes, for saying yes. I truly appreciate it. One time, maybe some months, from now, would it be okay for us to invite you again
Oh,
for
I will be
another
so honored.
testimony?
And Dr. Valerie, I just have to say, this what you're doing on this platform, it's so amazing, and your reward is waiting for you in heaven because people are going to get inspired. So thank you for letting little old me come on your podcast. I am so honored by this work that you're doing here and having all these people share their testimony to glorify God. You are doing a great work, and God is very, very pleased with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for saying that because sometimes you know that you're doing something, but to have somebody actually, recognize it, it speaks volumes. It
Mhm.
shows that the work is not done in vain and people actually appreciate it.
For
Not that
sure.
you want to be a people pleaser,
Mhm.
but it always blesses when you see that the work that you're doing, the time that you're putting in is actually bringing fruits and it's
For
impactful. So
sure.
thank you
Mhm.
so much for saying that. I truly appreciate
Of
you.
course.
So there you have it, my wonderful audience. This was Rincy. I told you that she was going to be good. I learned a lot myself. And so thank you so much for tuning in. And by the way, if you would like to be a guest, please don't hesitate to contact us. You can drop a comment and we would love to have you. See how you can also share your testimony. But until we see you next time, you remain blessed. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Science of Gratitude podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, share it, and leave us a review. Your support helps us keep spreading the power of gratitude. And until next time, stay grateful. God bless you.